All right, hi guys, this is section 1.7. Please write that at the top of your notes, and it's about the distributive property. And the distributive property is basically when you're multiplying that A or that number that's outside the parentheses to everything that's inside the parentheses. And that's why over here for the distributive property, we have this A, and we're doing A, and we're multiplying it to the B, and that's why I have this arrow. So A times B, and that's what you're seeing here. And then we have A times C right here plus AC. And we're taking the symbol that's inside and we're putting it also. So part 1, there are 4 parts in this lesson, so it's going to be a little bit longer. Part 1. You do not need to write down the directions. So we have 4 examples that we're going to do. They're going to get progressively harder as we go. The first example, 2 times x is 2x. Remember, you just put them right together with no dot. And then we have 2 times a 4 here. And this is a positive 4 because we see the plus sign there. So 2 times 4 is 8. So we're just going to write plus 8. Okay, next. We have 6. 6 times y. And you'll notice that the 6 is in the back there. That's okay. It's just a way to kind of change it up. And they want you to realize that it means the same thing. This is 6 times y. 6y. And then you do 6 times 3, and this is a positive 3 because of the plus, so 6 times 3 is 18, so plus 18. And that's your answer. Very quick and easy. Now we're going to get a little bit harder because we're bringing negatives in with the subtraction sign. So here we have 4 times x is 4x, and then we have 4 times a minus 2. You can think of this as a negative 2, put it all together, would be negative 8. So we write minus 8 there. Okay, next, on the last one, I'm just going to get a little bit more space to write because this is my challenge one. The reason why it's a challenge, well, 1, I threw a fraction in there, and I know that sometimes you don't like fractions. And 2, it has a negative sign in there, and that's going to also throw you off. So the first part's easy enough. You do negative 2/3 times n, and you get negative 2/3 n. So you just put them together for multiplication. Next, we're doing negative 2/3 times. This is a negative 3 because it's got a minus sign in front of it. Now, off to the side, I'm going to write in red. In red, we have negative 2/3 times a negative 3. And I'm just writing this off to the side. This is the work that we would do. This is not included in our answer. If you can't do this in your head, then I would suggest writing this off to the side. When you're multiplying fractions, anything on top can simplify with anything on the bottom. So I have a 3 and a 3 that can both cancel out. They'll both become 1 and 1. Don't forget this negative here, though. So we have negative 2 times negative 1 across the top in your numerators. That will give you a positive 2. Along the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1. So 2 over 1, which just means 2. And this was a positive 2 because we had a negative times a negative. So if this is a positive 2, when we go to add that to our answer, instead of writing the minus 2, we're going to write plus 2. Okay, so that is one of my challenge hard ones. All right, next, part 2, is rewriting fraction expressions. So I have here, there's 2 ways to do it. I'm going to show you both ways. However, I find that the way that I do it, different from the book, is a little bit faster. The way that I do it is I distribute this division of 3 to both of here. So what I do is I do 4x divided by 3, and you get 4x divided by 3 over 3. And that's like 4/3 x. 4/3 is an improper fraction. That's totally fine. And then I have 16 over 3. Okay, well 16 over 3, again, an improper fraction, which is fine. We don't need to make it mixed number. And I bring the subtraction sign in. So basically I distributed that divide by 3 there. That's your answer. There's nothing else you can do. You can't simplify anything. You're done. The way that the book does it, and I'll put the book in green here. So this is the way that the book does it, in case you go back and look at that. They pull this 3 out, and they write it, since it's on the denominator, they write it as 1/3. So they write 1/3, and then they put everything that's in the numerator inside parentheses. 4x minus 16. Now this means the same thing that I do, except I'm jumping to the answer much faster, because now we have to distribute this 1/3. And when you do 1/3 times 4x, that's going to be, this is like 4 over 1. You would do 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. and you have the x. That's the same thing as what we have there, what I have in my first answer, minus the 16 over 1, you can think of it as, times 1/3. 1 times 16 is 16. 3 times 1 on the bottom is 3. And you get the same answer. You just need to know that these are equal. I think that the blue, the way that I do it, is much faster. Okay, so now let's get it a little bit harder. Number 2. We're going to distribute that 6. I'm going to do it the way that, the blue way, because I think it's a little bit faster. So we have 11 over 6. And then we have 3x over 6. So plus 3x over 6. Now, this is not your final answer because you can simplify. 11 over 6 you can't simplify. So this stays as 11 over 6. You do not need to change it into 1 and 5/6. Plus, I can simplify 3 and 6. I can divide these both by 3. So the 3 is going to become a 1, and I still have my x there. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now, in math, we don't write that 1 next to the x. Okay, so what you just need to do is you need to erase it and just write x over 2, which is understood that there's a 1 there. So this is our final answer, 11 over 6 plus x over 2. All right, we'll do one more like that, and then we'll move on to the next part. 15 over 12, 15 over 12 plus, and then you're going to do 6x over 12. 6x over 12. Okay, and we can simplify a bunch of these. In the first part, 15 over 12, you can divide them both by 3. You'll get 5 over 4 plus, so I divided those by 3. This one I can divide both by 6. 6 divided by 6 is a 1, but again, we're not going to write that 1, so we're just going to write the x. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Okay, so these are new and a little bit difficult, but I have full confidence you'll be fine once we practice more. All right, part 3. Part 3 is the multiplication property of -1. And this is similar to what I was just talking about, but you're going to have a negative sign outside your parentheses. So I have this, if you look at example 1, hopefully you wrote down part 3, multiplication property of -1, example number 1. And basically in math, we don't like to write the 1. It should be understood that it's there. The same thing with -1, we'll just put the sign. So this really means we have a -1 in front. And what you're going to do is you're going to distribute that -1 to everything inside of here. Now, the faster way to think about that, instead of distributing -1, is that -1 means to take the opposite. So if I just take the opposite of everything inside, the opposite of A would be -A. And the opposite of +5 would be -5, and you'll get the answer. If you want to think of it the way with the -1 that you're distributing -1, when you do -1 times A, you get -1A. But remember, we don't write that 1. So erase it. And then you would do -1 times a +5, and you get -5, which is why we write -5 there. So you arrive at the same answer either way, whichever way you think about it. Let's do one more of those, and then we'll move on to part 4. Okay, here, again, you can think of that as distributing the -1, or I can think of this means take the opposite of everything in here. Well, the opposite of -x is x. The opposite of +31 is -31. And I think that opposite way of thinking is a little bit faster than thinking, okay, this means -1 times -1. -1 times -1 is +1. So that's why we have a +1x, which we don't write that 1, remember. +1x. And then we do -1 times a +31 would be -31. That's why there's that minus sign there, because it's -31. All right, last part is part 4. Part 4 is combining like terms. And this should be a topic that you covered last year. But combining like terms, you're looking to make sure that they have the same variable in order for them to be like terms or friends. Same variable raised to the same exponent. Raised to the same exponent. Okay, so here, this one's easy enough. They both are y's. They don't have an exponent to them. So you can think of this as 3 yo-yos minus 1 yo-yo. All right, so 3y minus 1y, because there's a 1 there that we don't write, would be 2y's, or 2 yo-yos, okay? And you keep the y, the variable does not change. You just change their coefficients, the number in front. All right, so if I look, we're just going to do number 2, and that's going to be it. This one, they have an mn to the 4th, okay, so same here, and mn to the 4th. So you're just going to write mn to the 4th, keep it there. That part does not change since it's the same. Now we have -7, and we have -5 is a -12. All right, that's it for today. Have a good one.